Hey guys, just wanted to touch base and talk about a few things that have been on my mind over the past week. And it kind of started after I listened to the New York Watchman's podcast and even heard Charlie say how tired he was. And I think most of us who have been in this group for a while are exhausted or tired from so many different things that are coming at all of us across this country. People, especially people who are conservative. I mean, we went from last year being, when the group started for physical threat. Some that's continuing now even. Um, that the pandemic, this election came up and changed the entire dynamic of a lot of the group as it pertains to say social media and what people think our group's about. And its origin, it didn't really have anything to do with politics as heavy as it is right now. Um, Although civic engagement is a part of what we are and a part of what we should be involved in, that part really took off, especially when there was accusations of fraud and still accusations of that now. We went from being concerned with our communities to all of us being really concerned about the entire country. And that's justified, that's understandable. But I just want us to remember, all of us, that what we're here for is because we've seen a need of people who have the same type of values that do extend out to other people that are different from us. We value real equality and balance. We value that kind of thing. And that's why we're together. We value safety, and that's why the whole thing started. And it seems like so many people are really exhausted over the past couple weeks over this presidential thing and all the theories that are out there, all the information that's flying around, and 3/4 of it seems to be just completely off somewhere. I don't even really know how to address it. And it pushes people to start going, so and so needs to do this or so and so needs to do that. And if I take you back to when our group started, when the Watchmen started, so many people got on our social media platform and kept going, well, people need to do this, people need to do that. And one of the things I tried to say often was, don't be the type of person who continuously goes, somebody else needs to do this or do that. If you see a need and something has grabbed your attention, we have social media platform and we have a website. Right now our social media platform is MeWe, and we have the website watchmanguard.org. You can communicate on either one of those. My point is, if you see a need, start talking about what you're going to do to address it and ask for people to help you address it, rather than spending so much energy talking about so and so needs to do this or do that. That doesn't go anywhere. And I think part of, I'm gonna refer back to, I've said this before, we've hung on the coattails of people who have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for this country to be here. And we've cashed in on it for a long time, to the point where we've kind of just sat back and assumed that things are going to go like we want them to go. Assume that if a president does this or does that it's going to go how we want it to go. It don't fall on one person. We create community, we create culture, in our communities. It's not all going to be done through your government. And our efforts need to be placed in our communities. Local places, local government, local businesses, local school systems, and universities. Those places all have to be reached in some form, because while all this other crap's been going on, the left has been busy, putting in policies that are mind-boggling to me. And I don't even understand how some of these things get put in place, except for there's a truth out there that sometimes it only takes a handful of people complaining or requesting something to be done, and either a town or a local government or university will put that kind of thing in place just because somebody said it, or just because a small group had something to say about it. And it's alarming what I'm seeing policy-wise. So I guess the exhausting part is we're hit at so many angles. Not only that, we're in a new organization here, a new group that has growing pains happening right now. And fortunately, though, there's people who have really stepped in there to work hard, to try to keep something going, to try to keep organization there and impact. And so many have, struggled not knowing where to focus in, or not knowing, what should we pay attention to, the most. As from the beginning, and I think it should stay this way, we have to have civil defense just because of stuff like what we've seen over this past summer. Just because of that, the defense needs to be there. But the other part that was mentioned right when this group started was the civic engagement. That, in my opinion, is what led to people behaving like they did this past summer. The sorts of things that are being taught in schools, the sorts of things that are on television shows, it paints this picture, and people tend to respond based on their notions of what they hear either in school, or what they hear on TV, or what they hear even from government. And this big tech especially is creating that narrative right now. They are creating that picture that they want everybody to see. And we're going to all be affected by that. One group doing that, they're demonizing, they're demonizing conservatives. And they're giving a complete erroneous picture of what we are, what we stand for. That reminds me to go back to what I was mentioning about the New York Watchman podcast. Something that I've told people around here is the context in New York is a little different than it is here in North Carolina. They are constantly being aggravated and by groups that are either harassing people or trying to tear stuff up. And it's up to us as brothers and sisters to them to empathize with what they're going through. At the same time, since they have a podcast that you can reach nationally that way, those guys also have to be empathetic toward how what they say on the podcast, or what they do even in New York, can affect the rest of watchmen across the nation. So it's a two-way street where we have to consider context both directions. How do we impact each other, and are we thinking about what the other guy's going through? What put them in that place? And lots of times, we can make assumptions based on how things are in our own area and say, well, they shouldn't be doing that. Or either way, my point is, I appreciate what you guys have done and are doing in New York. So if I ever bring anything up about just paying attention to how things are promoted or discussed or done, processes of how they're done, it simply has to do with how all of us will be affected by it. Because we can be bold and make a statement without having to do it in a way that people can grab onto and try to make it into something else. And also appreciate the transparency that was shown on the podcast this past week. That was I respect that a lot. I respect people being honest and just saying what things are, And that's what we need to do and continue to do as a group. The The other exhausting part I just mentioned, within groups growing, I mean, it can be really difficult because assumptions get, same thing with from state to state. I mean, assumptions can be there, and there might be a lack of communication or, you know, something like that. And it just makes it difficult. Something any person in a leadership role understands is sometimes a lack of communication can cause assumptions that are harmful, you know, and are just they're hard to deal with, and people's relationships sometimes are really hard to deal with. But at our core, I mean, why are we even here? You know, what's the point if you don't have the physical threat right in front of you? What's the point? And I bring it back to quality of life. And where's that headed right now? If you just take a look at some of these policies going in, you'll see where that's headed. Quality of life is going into a different area. And that's where we can engage. That's where we can help each other. That's where we can impact what life's going to be like, maybe even for us, but for our kids and grandkids. I'm looking at mine lately, and I'm heartbroken by it, by what they could be in the future, knowing what opportunities won't be there, what type of environment that they're going to be in that demonizes or marginalizes them based on who they are, based on what they believe. It's a horrible thought. It's a depressing thought, you know. So if I was to reach out to you guys across the country that are in this Watchman group, those who are in an inner circle, who are part of the structure group, because we have that, and then those who are simply looser affiliates, there's a lot we can do to address our culture. But it has to start with not waiting on somebody else to do it. It has to start with, okay, I see a need. Let me think about how I could address this. Ask for some support or for some help from other people in this group to do what it is or address what it is that I'm seeing. So my suggestion is from this spot right now, because there's so much uncertainty going on right now, and so many are waiting. I mean, like, well, let's wait till this happens. There's a sign happening. There's a message there. There's, you know, this and that. In the meantime, we're sitting here spinning wheels, and the left is steadily putting policies in place that are going to be harder and harder to undo. So switch gears is what I'm saying. Put it in a gear, an action gear, and go that route. And if it is that you want to address something and are not sure about how to address it, utilize the social media platform, utilize the website, ask for some suggestions. Just say, you know, something like, you know, I'd really like to address what I'm seeing at, you know, so-and-so university down the street. Or this TV show keeps promoting this or promoting that, and it's really, you know, going to impact how people view this group of people or that group of people. How can that sort of thing be addressed? So getting involved in figuring out how to make things happen is what we all have to be doing. Not waiting on somebody else to do it, but proactively going into it and figuring out what we can do. Even reaching out to people in your local government that may have a similar mindset could possibly give you some ideas of maybe how you can get involved in a way to make an impact. From that point, that's a burden we all have to carry. I think is what I'm really trying to get at here. It's been hard to focus and to narrow a focus on even what to talk about on this video because there's so much stuff going on. But that will be the place where we maybe all get an understanding of we don't just get to sit back and collect off of what someone done years and years ago to start the country. what people done years and years ago to preserve certain things about the country. That's our duty. If we care to have it, then we have to work for it. It was given to us. So to preserve it, we have to work to preserve it. And that's my encouragement. Work to preserve what it is you value, and work to challenge the things that are going to cause a problem for you, your kids, your grandkids, and anybody else you know that might have principles, that might have a conservative or moderate stance on life. But if we don't work in it, it's going to go like the left wants it to go. We've spent way too much time banking on either a president to do something or a group of people to do something. This is something we all have to do on a consistent basis. So that's my encouragement. I appreciate all you guys, and I know so many of us are exhausted. Hang in there, because there is, if it has become what it is right now, then it can change out of that as well. People put effort in, people put their mouths in there, they put loudness in there, they engage with school systems, with their governments, with media. That's how they've gotten their way. So utilize channels that you know can make an impact. And let's start turning where this thing has went, because nobody else is just going to come do it. It's past that time that we can sit back and collect on something somebody else already done. We don't have that luxury anymore. So it's time for us to recalculate in the brain what it is that we're sitting in. Somebody has came in and is turning and shifting basic principles of fairness and liberty for all people. They're shifting it and taking it. So that's our responsibility. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you again soon.